One would struggle to find a more consistent and steady professional athlete than Scott Panchik. Through 3 eras of CrossFit Games champions, Panchik has always been on the heels of the fittest man on earth. At 5'9", 187 pounds, he fits the mold of the average CrossFit athlete, but Scott is anything but average. Since 2012, Panchik has never finished outside the top 50 at the CrossFit Open. His best Open performances include 2 4th place and 2 5th place finishes in the world. At 31, age is not holding Panchik back. His best Open finish was just this last CrossFit Games season, placing him 11th, right behind longtime friendly rival Rich Froning. Scott Panchik has only once finished outside the top 10 at the CrossFit Games with his 11th fittest man on earth status in 2018. He came back with a vengeance in 2019, taking his 3rd 4th place finish of his career. Panchik has historically had an endurance problem, struggling with longer endurance events like the cyclocross in 2018 and anything thrown at him with a longer run. Much like CrossFit Open opponent Rich Froning, Panchik struggled with the first workout of the 2019 CrossFit Open, placing outside the top 100. Scott's wheelhouse is classic CrossFit, moving large loads over long distances quickly. He passed Rich Froning and won a CrossFit Games Fran event in 2012. He's also dangerous with a heavy load, going toe-to-toe with fittest man on earth Matt Fraser in the 2019 1-rep max clean event. Talking consistency, his Games finishes read off like a legend's rap sheet. 4th, 11th, 6th, 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 5th, 4th, 4th. Every year feels like the year Panchik could break the barrier and take it all. Without mincing words, Rich Froning stands timeless in the sport and garners comparisons to being the Michael Jordan of CrossFit. Since his first CrossFit Games left him in 2nd place in 2010, Froning has never left a CrossFit Games without a top 2 finish. With 4 consecutive fittest man on earth finishes spanning from 2011 to 2014, Froning's retirement from individual competition brought his return with a team in 2015, and then 4 more fittest team on earth finishes. You can do the math. For 10 years of CrossFit Games events, Froning has 2 2nd place finishes, his version of a consolation prize to his 8 first place gold medals. While they've given him problems in the past, gone are the days when Rich Froning feared swimming and rope climb events. His biggest remaining area to grow is with longer distance events, though it's hard to tell with his competitions of late being purely on a team. Froning has historically not excelled at lower barrier to entry .1 workouts, placing 291st in 19.1, 183rd in 18.1, and 71st in 17.1. The most dangerous thing Rich Froning can do on the field of play is use his shoulders or a barbell. His history is lined with event wins with movements like overhead lunges, overhead squats, handstand walks, handstand push-ups, and the clean and jerk. He thrives when it comes to classic CrossFit benchmark workouts too, holding CrossFit Games event wins in both Elizabeth and Isabel. Simply using the word legendary doesn't do Froning justice. For those making the pilgrimage to the CrossFit Games each year, none make the trip without the hope of paying homage to not just the fittest, but the greatest on earth. Hello everyone, and welcome to the WODDITY edition of the CrossFit Games CrossFit Open 20.1 live stream. My name is Ben Garves. I am the owner and CEO, and I am a digital nomad that travels from event to event, place to place, reporting live from everything. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today. You just watched our intro videos for Scott Panchik and Rich Froning. I am going to talk through some predictions here, and then we are going to cut over for live commentary from Rogue and watch this awesome epic meetup of these two phenomenal athletes. A little bit about the event. I have some statistics here. Historically, out of the last 7 years, 6 times the first workout of the CrossFit Open has been an AMRAP. So the odds are very good that we are looking at an AMRAP being announced today. Historically, we've also seen longer time domains. The average workout length for each one of these in the last 7 years has been 15 and a half, almost 16 minutes. So we're looking at probably an AMRAP, probably a longer time domain. The shortest one we've ever seen for a 0.1 workout has been in, what year was that? 15.1, and that was a 9-minute time domain. We've seen snatches 4 times in 0.1 workouts. We've seen burpees 3 times. We've seen rows twice, including the last 2 years. And we have seen toes to bar twice also. We have seen some very interesting hints from none other than Dave Castro posting pictures of donkeys on Instagram. Who knows what that could mean? Only Dave Castro does. But we are expecting one heck of a matchup between these two epic athletes. I am going to cut over to Rogue. We are going to watch the intro to the Rogue show, and I will interject whenever I see necessary with some commentary. Thank you so much for watching WODDITY's live stream. My name is Ben Garves, and let's do this.
In the team division, remember, everyone thought that it was going to be so competitive. We have so much talent. Well, guess what? Rich Froning and company go out and they at it again. They just go out and demolish everybody and look dominant while doing it. And this is what they've done the past 5 years of the games. There's only one blemish, and that was in 2017. And that was only a second place finish. That's as bad as it's gotten for them. There is a ton of talent in the team division. Everyone acknowledges that. But why is this team so good?
A couple reasons why. Number one, right off the bat, is that talent aside, it's still Rich Froning running CrossFit Mayhem's team. He's built a culture. He has built a following of what it means to compete.
Oh, see, I am already back. So they're talking about Rich Froning running CrossFit Mayhem and the CrossFit Mayhem team specifically. It's a super interesting topic because we just found out today that Rich Froning will actually be doing team programming for the Dubai CrossFit Championship. The Dubai CrossFit Championship was criticized by Froning last year because their team programming ended up being just a bunch of individual events, and they added up all those individual events to accumulate a team score. So we should see something much more epic this year, but it is a sign that Rich Froning has opted out of the Dubai CrossFit Championship. We probably won't see any CrossFit Mayhem teams, no CrossFit Mayhem Europe, no Freedom, no Independence. And at the same time, we have heard details today about Rich Froning's CrossFit Mayhem Classic Sanctional, where he is inviting 30 male and 30 female individual athletes, but we are not going to see any team competition at that event until Rich retires. All right, back to them.
Official announcement as to who is going to be their final team member in 2020. Hi everybody, I'm Sean Woodland here in one of the fittest cities in the United States, Austin, Texas, with two of the fittest men on the planet, Rich Froning and Scott Panchik. They'll be taking part in the live open announcement for 20.1. But first, Rich, ever since the end of the games, when you guys won once again and you announced that Dre was stepping away, there was a lot of speculation and rumors out there as to who was going to be taking his place. You want to make the official announcement?
You want to take it? Here it is. Here he is.
How did you come to the decision that he was the right fit?
I mean, looking at his track record, he's super fit. We've never really hung out a ton, but we've known each other in the past, competed against each other in the past. Knew he was super competitive. Knew a little bit of his background from other people that, Ben and some of those other people that have done like team series events with him, and knew it would work out pretty well. So reached out to him last year, I guess, right before the games, once we kind of found out Dre was stepping away, and needed to come up with a plan, I think, kind of before he kind of got snatched up by another team. So we talked a little bit and kind of set that plan in motion.
Scott, you've had so much success on the individual side. Why make the decision now to go to the team competition?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for 8 years, and I'm just excited to take on a new venture. I've always played team sports growing up and enjoyed that, and I know, being part of Team Mayhem is going to give me that opportunity to keep competing for a long time. What
do you think you now bring to this team that has so much experience on it?
I think some of the experience and the things that I've learned being an individual definitely carry over in events leading up to the games and at the games. So I think that experience will definitely help.
I would wish you good luck, but you're not going to need it this year with all the talent you guys have on that squad. But I will wish you good luck in the Open announcer 20.1. Any guesses as to what you might like to see?
Something simple and it's going to hurt. That's my guess. That's my guess.
Spot on, for sure.
It is now officially.
Wow, so that is official. We now have official word from Panchik and from Froning himself that this is going to be the future of CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. It will be Scott Panchik, it will be Rich Froning, it will be Tasia Persevich, and it will be China Cho. Some interesting facts is that we just saw the two athletes together, Rich Froning and Scott Panchik, struggle conventionally with 0.1 workouts. It's something about that simplified low barrier to entry movement. It ends up being a little bit longer in the time domain, and it's kind of in this gray area for both athletes. It's cardiovascularly something similar to a longer endurance run. So if it's running a 5K versus lifting a barbell with high repetitions, that's where we're seeing that comparison. We do know that both of these guys thrive when it comes to overhead lifts, but the one perk that we think we would see Panchik have over Rich Froning is when it comes to moderate weight but high repetition. So if we are doing something like thrusters, we would see this thing lean a little bit more toward the one and only Scott Panchik.
That's Rich.
I mean, that was the big thing coming out of that 2014 Central Regional, is that can Scott finally topple Rich, not just at regionals, but at the CrossFit Games. And this was in the peak of the Rich Froning era when he seemed to be unstoppable. So when you're talking about adding Scott Panchik, who in my opinion, aside from Rich, aside from Matt, Scott Panchik is one of the best male individuals to ever compete at the CrossFit Games. He should be in the likes of the Ben Smiths, just like everybody else should, but he's just always been outside of that. So adding Scott Panchik to this team is going to change it dramatically.
Right, and Dre had all the experience on the team side of things, and you don't want to sell him short. He has some amazing accomplishments. You can see that on your screen. But Scott, with the best open finish, was in 4th in 2016. A great game showing this last year, and then 8 individual games appearances. He knows what it's like to compete on the big stage, and the rich are indeed getting richer. But we have a long way to go before we find ourselves in Madison. We have to get through the Open. We have nearly 30 sanctioned events, and then we can start getting serious about Rich Froning and Mayhem at the CrossFit Games. But let's take a look at what the season does look like. And of course, we're kicking things off here in Austin, Texas for the announcement of 20.1. So the Open goes October 10th through November 11th. The Rogue Invitational Qualifier, those dates have just now been released. January 10th, that gets going. Sanctional season for the 2020 CrossFit Games starts November 22nd and goes through July 7th. Rogue Invitational, it's a great event. You're going to want to go to roguefitness.com and pay attention to their social media outlets for all the information on that. And then we find ourselves in Madison, Wisconsin next year for the 2020 Reebok CrossFit Games. Of course, the road to Madison gets started tonight.
And I am back. Okay, so they just threw up a list of all of the events that are happening this year. I just want to add a caveat. Road Warrior Fitness hosted by me, along with all of WODDITY, is going to be at every single North American Sanctional in the 2019-2020 season. We start in Cookeville, Tennessee at the CrossFit Mayhem Classic. We are road tripping to and from, and you can follow the whole journey here on the YouTube channel. Just click the subscribe button to get alerts when those videos come out. I'm going to be stopping in cool places, doing epic workouts in epic places, things like abandoned airfields, mines, ghost towns, a little bit of everything. So go ahead and click that subscribe button and you will get to see more of that, along with all of our live reporting from every single one of these North American Sanctionals. I think it's 6 or 8 in the United States and 2 in Canada, 1 in Vancouver, BC, 1 in Montreal, Quebec.
Strongman Sphere event Games in 2017, and it was Mateusz Kaliszkowski on the left out-dueling Jerry Pritchett, which is big for Kaliszkowski because Pritchett really excels at these events. He set the record in the frame carry a couple years ago at the Arnold Strongman Classic. Deadlifts for reps, that was up next. Bryan Shaw, a deadlift specialist, really does well when he gets a barbell in his hands, but he's been battling a bit of an injury bug, had a bad hamstring at the Arnold Strongman Classic. Didn't get the performance he wanted. JF Caron right there is the man who wins. And then the final event, the arm-over-arm pull. Novikov looking for his second win. But Mateusz Kaliszkowski had different thoughts. He wins that event, and he's heading back to the Arnold Strongman Classic.
I'm a little bit tired because it is my 11th competition this year now. But it's not so big pressure for me, this competition, because like I said, I have quality. But for sure I want to be the top because I'm doing for the winner.
Five events, and Mateusz Kaliszkowski wins 3 of them. Alexei Novikov takes the yoke walk, and then Jean-Francois Caron out of Canada, he gets the event win in the deadlift 4 reps. And Kaliszkowski needed to win that last event because the margin of victory that he had in this event was only 2.5 points over Alexei Novikov. JF Caron, another guy who won the event, finishes 3rd, followed by Mikhail Shivlikov and then Jerry Pritchett in 5th place, the highest finishing American. Being joined now by a man who did not compete at that event but was a judge. You may have noticed him in the screen. He finished 2nd at the Arnold Strongman Classic in 2019 and won the Arnold Strongman USA in January. Also recently crowned the world's strongest man. Martins Litis, how you doing, my friend?
I'm great, and if you guys are just, of course, watching that video, you'll see that I was refereeing.
You were?
Forget Mateusz, my refereeing was on point. That's what was
you
really
look solid
there.
with that down signal.
Absolutely.
You can't teach that
it.
skill. Now, you didn't compete at that event. You have one more chance now to qualify for the Arnold Strongman Classic. That's in Santa Monica in January at the Arnold Strongman USA. What are your plans for that event?
What was that?
What are your plans for that event? Will you be competing?
Oh, absolutely, I'll be competing. And I'm right now I'm recovering from a little nerve pinch on my right shoulder that's been shutting off my strength in my tricep and my lat. But I've been doing a lot of rehab over the last month, and it's my strength is coming back pretty fast, and I'll be ready to dominate that show yet again.
And you won that event last year. How did that set you up for the success that you had in 2019?
That's such a good question. Well, that show had basically the same events or very similar events to the one in Arnold, Ohio. So it was a good place to test my strength, especially against Mateusz. You know, again, forget that guy. So I was able to beat him there in Santa Monica. So I knew I was going to be able to at least place top 3 in Ohio.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you did. You go to the Arnold Strongman Classic, you finish 2nd, you win the Wheel of Pain, which is a phenomenal performance.
I trained that one like crazy.
Yeah, what did that do for your confidence now as you move forward?
Well, the crazy thing is in Ohio, I found that with Hafthor Bjornsson there, like, you know, one of the strongest guys to have ever lived, and a big, you know, he's one of my idols. Yeah. I was so close to him. And everything we did, and I was only like, he had 40-something points. I was only 4.5 points behind him, and that kind of lit a light bulb in for me that I from there on knew I could win. I could truly win the world title.
One would struggle to find a more consistent and steady professional athlete than Scott Panchik. Through 3 eras of CrossFit Games champions, Panchik has always been on the heels of the fittest man on earth. At 5'9", 187 pounds, he fits the mold of the average CrossFit athlete, but Scott is anything but average. Since 2012, Panchik has never finished outside the top 50 at the CrossFit Open. His best Open performances include 2 4th place and 2 5th place finishes in the world. At 31, age is not holding Panchik back. His best open finish was just this last CrossFit Games season, placing him 11th, right behind longtime friendly rival Rich Froning. Scott Panchik has only once finished outside the top 10 at the CrossFit Games with his 11th fittest man on earth status in 2018. He came back with a vengeance in 2019, taking his third fourth-place finish of his career. Panchik has historically had an endurance problem, struggling with longer endurance events like the cyclocross in 2018 and anything thrown at him with a longer run. Much like CrossFit Open opponent Rich Froning, Panchik struggled with the first workout of the 2019 CrossFit Open, placing outside the top 100. Scott's wheelhouse is classic CrossFit, moving large loads over long distances quickly. He passed Rich Froning and won a CrossFit Games Fran event in 2012. He's also dangerous with a heavy load, going toe-to-toe with fittest man on earth Matt Fraser in the 2019 1-rep max clean event. Talking consistency, his Games finishes read off like a legend's rap sheet. 4th, 11th, 6th, 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 5th, 4th, 4th. Every year feels like the year Panchik could break the barrier and take it all. Without mincing words, Rich Froning stands timeless in the sport and garners comparisons to being the Michael Jordan of CrossFit. Since his first CrossFit Games left him in second place in 2010, Froning has never left a CrossFit Games without a top 2 finish. With 4 consecutive fittest man on earth finishes spanning from 2011 to 2014, Froning's retirement from individual competition brought his return with a team in 2015, and then 4 more fittest team on earth finishes. You can do the math. For 10 years of CrossFit Games events, Froning has 2 second-place finishes, his version of a consolation prize to his 8 first-place gold medals. While they've given him problems in the past, gone are the days when Rich Froning feared swimming and rope climb events. His biggest remaining area to grow is with longer distance events, though it's hard to tell with his competitions of late being purely on a team. Froning has historically not excelled at lower barrier to entry .1 workouts, placing 291st in 19.1, 183rd in 18.1, and 71st in 17.1. The most dangerous thing Rich Froning can do on the field of play is use his shoulders or a barbell. His history is lined with event wins with movements like overhead lunges, overhead squats, handstand walks, handstand push-ups, and the clean and jerk. He thrives when it comes to classic CrossFit benchmark workouts too, holding CrossFit Games event wins in both Elizabeth and Isabel. Simply using the word legendary doesn't do Froning justice. For those making the pilgrimage to the CrossFit Games each year, none make the trip without the hope of paying homage to not just the fittest, but the greatest on earth.
Accomplishments and why she's such an impressive young athlete and such a great up-and-comer for Team USA. I mean, look at we're going to talk about this in a second, but that 112-kilo snatch at the World Championships, you broke 5 records. What was it like finally hitting that lift?
It was so surreal because I've been working at that weight for a really long time, so knowing I'm ending my junior career pretty soon and being able to hit that at one of my last meets as a junior, it feels awesome to get that world record because, yeah, it was just really awesome.
And for our viewers who are trying to do the math in their heads, that's 235 pounds. That's what you hit.
Jumping back in here, thank you everyone for watching this live feed. My name is Ben Garves. I am the CEO and founder of WODDITY. We build tools and resources for athletes and gyms, but we also report the news for fans of CrossFit. I just finished up, it feels like yesterday, at the CrossFit Games in Madison. I am road tripping between every North American sanctional event in 2020 And it all starts with the CrossFit Mayhem Classic in Cookeville, Tennessee with Rich Froning in January. But in the meantime, I am hosting this live commentary live feed. Right now on the background, we have the Rogue Iron Game, which is the original host of the feed. We are going to cut over to it right at 5 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Mountain, 7 o'clock Central, and 8 o'clock Eastern for this epic head-to-head between Rich Froning and Scott Panchik. I dove into it a little bit earlier for people who were watching the feed then, but I have a couple of quick statistics for you. One of the things we should be looking out for is an AMRAP. In the last 7 years, 6 of the 7.1 workouts in the CrossFit Open ended up being AMRAPs, and they are in a longer time domain. The average time domain for those workouts ended up being 15 and a half minutes, much like last year when we ended up doing alternating 19 wall ball shots and 19 calorie rows for 19 minutes? Whatever it was long and it was miserable. So we are getting ready. We are exactly 5 minutes out. See that on the clock? The reason I'm a little weird, having a little Red Bull, don't worry, it's sugar-free. I'm going to cut you back over to the best voice in CrossFit, Sean Woodland. I'm only a 3-time nominee for the second best voice in CrossFit for my WODDITY podcast, which is daily news for CrossFit. You can find it anywhere you find your podcasts. We do it in 5 minutes or less. Make your life easy, get you on your way and on with your day so you can go do all those other epic things that you do. Thanks for watching this feed. I'm going to get you back over there and let's watch this thing together.
The team leader for USA Weightlifting to be able to use each other to maximize each other's performances. So, the coaches aren't thinking, okay, like Kate against Maddie. It's how can we make USA Weightlifting do the best together? So that is very helpful, and I think we push each other to make each other better. So I think it's great for us.
The sport of weightlifting really has grown in popularity recently. How do you continue to do that, and not only do that, but also get more women involved in it?
Yeah, I think that CrossFit actually has done great things for weightlifting and making sure that we can keep integrating CrossFit and weightlifting. I think that'll be great for both sports.
Yeah.
In women, I think we just need to keep putting out, media and showing that women can be strong and women can put a barbell in their hands, and it's totally okay and normal. And yeah, I think it's great. It's going well.
Yeah, well, Kate, again, congratulations on all your accomplishments so far. Fingers crossed that you wind up the Olympics, because I know everybody here in the United States really wants to watch you on the big stage in Tokyo. So best of luck to you.
Thank you, Sean.
We have been monitoring your questions in the comments section, and we are going to send it down to Chase Ingram and Margot Alvarez to field some of your comments and questions here on the Rogue Iron Game.
Hey, thanks, Sean. Thank you for your questions all afternoon. Margot, I'll start with you. Is that you haven't got to do one of these open announcements over your individual career, but what is it like being here in Austin, Texas, out here in the lights as an individual? How do you think they're feeling in the back right now?
I think they're feeling really excited, really amped. I think the crowd here is amazing. Austin's incredible. I love it. Yeah. It's been incredible being here this past day, so I'm excited to see the two guys go after it.
Touch more on your individual moving to team side. Now that Scott is going to CrossFit Mayhem, how do you think he's going to fare moving into that team role versus an individual?
I think he'll do really well. He has some experience from the team series in 2014 and 16, and I think he's going to fit really well with the team Mayhem, with Rich and the other individual athletes that are on there. I think they have great cohesion. I've been around them as an individual and spent some time with them, and I think they're really going to mesh well, so I think it's going to be perfect.
That's questions for us. Sean, I got a question for you. What's 20.1 going to be?
Oh, man, I have no idea, and I can't wait to find out. That's going to do it for us here on the Rogue Iron Game pre-show.
That makes a couple of us, Sean Woodland. Okay, so before the announcement comes up, I just want to revisit the reason why Margot Alvarez was asked about team competition is as an individual athlete, she opted out of the CrossFit Open last year and made a public post about it. And when that happened, she was actually released from CrossFit. She was an L1 staff trainer, and they let her go. She ended up competing as a team, and I believe for Invictus. and that was the first of her experience as a team competitor. All right, we'll cut you back over. I'm going to stay silent. We're going to watch this together.
From it, destiny arrives all the same. The road to Madison starts in Austin. Welcome, everybody, to the Lone Star State, where, yes, everything is indeed bigger in Texas, and we have a huge matchup for you tonight as we announce 20.1 to get the 2020 Reebok CrossFit Games season underway. Thanks for being with us here, everybody, in Austin, Texas. I'm Sean Woodland with Margot Alvarez and Chase Ingram. Dan Bailey will be around here in just a little bit, but if you're just joining us, first of all, shame on you. That's why Dan isn't here. He's off crying because he's been insulted. But we have one big announcement coming up. We have already heard another big announcement, and that is the confirmation that Scott Panchik will indeed be the fourth and final member of CrossFit Mayhem Freedom for the 2020 season. Talked about it earlier, but again, like, what hope do other teams have now that this is?
We call that the evolution of the super team.
From Panchik to Paycheck.
Okay.
I think it's going to be really hard for any other team to come in and take that spot away from Mayhem. They lost a minute on the swim paddle event by losing Dre, but by bringing in Scott, they have, years of experience, consistency at the top. That's just going to add to Team Mayhem.
Here is a caveat to what Margot is saying here. The one thing that we're going to see that Mayhem is going to struggle with is that Panchik has the same strengths Froning does, but they both struggle with endurance events. So if we only see one or two longer time domain endurance events like the run, swim, run, or the ruck run from last year, or anything with a 5K, or anything with a longer swim, we will want another competitor on the male side, or they are going to have a huge point lead in order to overcome the similarities. Mayhem Freedom has always been a strong team because every athlete has different strengths.
We've got the athletes, we've got the judges, we've got the crowd. That's right, Austin, yeehaw. And now all we need is that workout. So, 20.1 is 10 rounds of 8 ground to overhead. Okay, I like that. And 10 bar facing burpees. The weight, 95 and 65 pounds. The time cap, 15 minutes. So 20.1 is 10 rounds of 8 ground to overhead, 10 bar facing burpees, 95 and 65 pounds for the weight, with a 15-minute time cap. So Rich, you've done a lot of these open workouts, open announcements. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
It's gonna suck.
Fair enough, fair enough. Already have some strategies in your head?
Not really. I think it's just pretty straightforward. Yeah, just grip and rip and jump over that bar.
There isn't really a strategy you can use for that.
Sweet little couplet here for you, Panchik.
Of ground to overhead,
what do you like about this event?
8, and then 10 bar facing burpees.
So burpees
bar
are
is
usually
95
pretty good
pounds.
for me. I'm excited about falling down, standing up quickly, and hanging with this guy for the next 15 minutes.
Thanks, guys. You're free to go warm up. Now let's have some fun.
Thanks a lot, Kiki. So 15 minutes, 10 rounds of 8 ground to overhead, 95, 65, and 10 bar facing burpees. You guys are just hearing this, just like everybody else. We're going to think about it for a minute. But
I think it's worth noting how uncomfortable Margot Alvarez looks at that.
You have to do that math.
I know.
Oh, man.
I was hoping it's like, please be more. This is too short. It's going to hurt so bad.
Yeah, this is one of those
100
workouts you look at as like, you could stop.
100.
But why would you?
Exactly.
Yeah, we know the men who will be competing. Let's meet one of the men who will be keeping them honest. Dan Bailey is with one of the judges, and I'm pretty sure you all are going to recognize this guy.
Thank you, Sean. I'm down here with Adrian Bosman. With this workout, let's hear it a little bit. Come on, Austin, we got Bosman. All right, with this workout, what are you expecting from the athletes? What are you looking for?
Well, I think they're going to be moving fast on that ground to overhead, so I want to see a real clear lockout. And this year, we got to see a 2-foot takeoff on the burpee like we've done in the past, so that's important. And if they touch the bar on the way over from the burpee, they have to do the whole thing over again. So those are the big three I'm going to be focusing on from them.
Okay, little wrinkle we see in the workout. I took a look at your sheet after it was announced. The word ground to overhead. Can you do a little more explanation as to what that means for this workout?
Yeah, so in this workout, the athletes have a choice. They can do a snatch, they can do a clean and jerk. It's up to them, any style, to get that bar from the ground to the overhead lockout position. So I think with these guys, you're going to see them come out the gates hot with snatches. For the rest of us, I think it's going to be a little bit of a combination when we start to get tired.
And obviously, we've got two professionals down here, but are there any things that you go over with the athlete before we actually start the event?
Yeah, exactly what we talked about before. Just making sure that with a movement that's moving as fast as these guys are going to be doing here, that lockout position is solid every time, and that they're clearly getting over the bar on every burpee.
Thanks so much for the questions, Adrian. Sean, back up to you at the desk.
Really quickly, just a shout out to Oski Bear 17 for giving me a shout out. Hey there. Thanks for watching.
You've had some little time now, just a couple minutes to think about this. Margot, I'll start with you. First off, what's the crux of this workout?
I mean, like I said earlier, 100 bar-facing burpees. I think it's going to be finding that pace from that first round.
There just really isn't a crux. You have to set your pace, and you just have to go, and you have to keep to that pace.
To overhead, it's going to get spicy real quick.
This is straight pain cave.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
is. And that's why I wanted to see more. I was like, okay, 8, 10.
And
That would really suck if that was it. What's the 12? Please be
Yeah.
Cal Row. Please, no, it's not Cal Row. That's just what this event is. And when you look at it, it's like for these athletes, unfortunately for them, it's not heavy enough for it to really be a slow grind-out event. It's 95 and 65. Yeah. It's power snatches, muscle snatches, grip and rip, and get over the bar. When you got someone like Rich and Scott going together, I mean, these guys are basically clones of each other in terms of height, weight, and ability.
Yeah, well, so let's get into that. Only two movements. Let's start with the bar facing, or start with the ground to overhead. Who has the advantage on that?
I mean, I would say Rich on that movement.
Okay.
He's very consistent in his movement. Barbell cycling, I mean, I would say he's almost the king of that.
It's just difficult for anybody to beat Froning in something that's going overhead. But if there's somebody who can do it, it is Panchik, because Panchik really thrives when it comes to that moderate weight ground to overhead. He does it quick.
Has an advantage on the bar facing burpees. Okay. When you think about 7 minutes of burpees, thank God that was not the event. I was really worried that's what it was going to be. But 7 minutes of burpees, Scott Panchik tied for the world's best score. I think it was 165 or something absurd to that nature. I'm talking about a wrestling background. He is not afraid to push the pace on the burpees, and that means they're not afraid of the barbell weight either. So it's going to be a good back and forth for 10 rounds.
All right, let's get into our workout predictions presented by Ramwad. No matter what the workout is, Ramwad can help you prepare for whatever comes next. Who do you like, Scott Panchik versus Rich Froning 20.1?
For this one, I'm going to take Rich.
Why?
Because I think even though Scott might have him on the burpees, that cycling of the reps is going to be in favor for him. And I think, again, consistency on being able to pace, Rich has that.
Who are you going with?
I'm going to go with Scott.
Okay.
And not just because Margot picked that, it's because Scott is the new kid on the block in the Mayhem community. And if you've ever been a bro coming to a CrossFit gym for the first time, the only thing you want to go there is ball out in your first workout with your homeboys. So I can see Scott trying to do that today.
And remember, we talked about this earlier, though.
And I have to weigh in on this. So you would be the equivalent of taking the Miami Dolphins over the Patriots by picking Panchik here. But every once in a while, the Miami Dolphins win. Dolphins.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has begun.
It's 10 rounds.
20.1
of 8 ground to overhead, 95 for the men, 65 for the women, then 10 bar facing burpees. This is
And we are watching them start with snatches, so straight up and down, straight up and down, straight up and down. And they're already done with that first round into those 10 burpees.
Both Scott and Rich were actually doing a small power snatch. That means they're getting underneath the barbell at the top of the lift, as opposed to what I'm 100% sure what Travis Williams will be doing is a muscle snatch with zero technique. But this is not a really technique-dependent workout when you talk about the skill level. However, doing that power snatch and having that efficiency is going to pay off big towards the end rounds.
both men now in round 2 of 10. We'll try to keep you updated on how much time has expired here in the event. Again, it's a 15-minute time cap. There's your game clock through now minute 11 and counting as Rich Froning and Scott Panchik going head-to-head. I think this is the first time we've seen Rich in an open announcement since 2015 when he went head-to-head with Matt Fraser, and that was in Boston.
And, you know, something unique to this open announcement.
And it's worth noting, Rich Froning laid down the law and made sure Matt Fraser learned a lesson.
You don't qualify through the Open anymore. You have to do it through a sanctioned event. But it's good to see Rich out there, especially with his new teammate, Scott Panchik. But what I've noticed is that it's a little bit more of a conservative pace for these athletes than I thought I would see in the first couple of rounds. And I think you got to take notes when it comes to that, because like Margot said, 100 bar facing burpees. How about 80 snatches at 95 pounds? That's a big volume number for that weight.
Scott Panchik starting round.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, we have a lot of burpees, and by the later rounds they are just pushing themselves past the pain, and only really, really good skilled athletes are going to be able to keep their mind on that pace and stay consistent, and that's where we're going to see this pay off. Now, Rich Froning does participate, or at least has participated in the Open every year since his retirement, and he usually places right around 10th, but he acts very nonchalant about it, like, hey, I guess maybe I'll do the Open. So I guess this means he's doing the Open again this year. Now remember, these athletes average around 200th place on .1 workouts. So these aren't necessarily the best benchmark scores for people to base their times on. We're likely to see athletes beat these pretty quickly.
Scott is a bit more of that pull and push of the lockout. When we're talking about 80 reps at 95 pounds, I would like to see what that looks like in rounds 8, 9, and 10.
This is the 4th of 10 rounds, and both athletes are through their 8.
Okay, raise your hand if you think you would possibly be done with 4 rounds 3 minutes in. Nobody? Nobody's raising their hand? Yeah, me neither.
This year, because if you hit the bar, you either pretended that you didn't hit the bar and kept doing burpees, or this time that extra burpee you did, now you have to do the complete thing and not the jump over.
Panchik and Froning neck and neck as they are now in round 5 of 10. Back to the barbell for 8 ground to overhead. 3 minutes, 30 seconds gone by, 15-minute time cap.
That wide stance that Scott has with his feet, and that's giving him the ability to not having to waste time moving his feet from start to finish in terms of the repetition. Rich is the same way, but he always has a traditional narrow stance when it comes to his lifting.
Panchik is done with that 5th set of 8 first.
So worth noting on top of talking about their stances, when you look at the comparison between Panchik and Froning and their feet and how their feet are lifting off the ground with those power snatches, you'll notice that Froning is coming a lot more off his off his feet. He still kind of has the ball of his foot on the ground, at least the toes, but we're seeing Panchik put in a firm base and just take that thing overhead. It's relying on his back a little bit more, which could wear down his back later on in these higher rep workouts. But we're seeing Panchik already back to the bar, so that is incredible. We're seeing Froning chalk up really quickly. We'll see if Froning picks back up. We still have 4 more rounds for him to do that, and we know that the man can hit the gas.
Barbell after Panchik. Now Scott Panchik with a lead, a good lead here in round 6.
Now Rich's bar is moving, but it's also moving very well counter to what Scott's is. Now Scott's isn't moving bad. It's just, you know, when you're standing next to Rich Froning, what are you supposed to say? The thing that Scott's making his hay on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is Panchik's movement on the bar just is not smooth. He's planting his feet, and he's not using his legs as much on those, which could be a strategy to try to not tax the rest of his body so he can focus on those burpees, but we'll see.
It's hot. It's getting sweaty, so Scott might lose time if he ever has to go back to the chalk like Rich did.
Scott Panchik now into round 7 of 10 as we approach the 5.5-minute mark, so neither one of these men are even going to be remotely in danger of getting time capped. That time cap again is 15 minutes. And now Froning getting started on his 7th round.
Let's be honest, that time cap exists for people like me, not for people like them. Wow, and
Panchik now too.
Panchik is already back to those burpees.
Of 10 bar-facing burpees. When he's done, he will have completed 70 of these. We're not even done yet.
And it's only been 6 minutes when you're looking at the clock. And this is, like I said before, if you want to win the event or you want to do the best you can, it's going to be during the burpees. You want to be smooth and efficient on your bar. And listen, they're doing power snatches. You can do clean and jerks. If this weight is too heavy for you to muscle snatch or power snatch, if you hang on to the bar at least and never put it down, clean and jerks is an easier movement to do. So when it comes down to the burpees and you're getting tired, don't be afraid to switch it over to that other movement.
Yeah. We're into round 8 number now as Scott Panchik still maintaining that lead over Rich Froning.
You know, an interesting note is Froning is not wearing his shoes. He's wearing regular Reebok Nano 9s. Froning has the RF1 shoe that came out last year. You know, the downside to watching these professional athletes do these workout announcements is that we are seeing the power snatch, as the announcers were talking about, versus doing something that's more like a power clean to a press overhead.
Makes a huge difference. And so being able to lay down and step up from the bottom. A lot of people don't know how to do actually that technique. It seems very simple when you look at it, and it is. But the technique, if you look at Scott on the left, is to hit your chest to the floor and step towards the bar right from the bottom, as opposed to try to jump up and then step.
2 rounds remain for Scott Panchik. He's now in round 9 of 10. And he grabbed this lead in round 6, and he's been able to maintain it so far. Is it really wise to beat your boss?
Well, I mean, no. Short answer.
CrossFit Mayhem may be looking for another teammate.
Okay, so it looks like Froning is just now starting his 2nd round. Wow. So this is going to be Panchik almost winning by an entire set of burpees. Froning, you don't want to piss off your boss when the boss is Rich Froning, because Froning does your programming for the next year, buddy.
Screen his judge.
And Sean, like you were saying earlier, it's just the tempo of Scott Panchik. It's not a manic pace. It's not a sprint. Rich is still moving very well. When we're talking about 100 burpees, that's when halves of seconds matter. You put that all together, that's a 30, 45 second.
All right, here we go. Panchik is on his last set of ground to overhead, and he is not backing down. Hey, remember when I said that sometimes the Miami Dolphins beat the Patriots? Way to go, Panchik.
Mayhem team that will look to win yet another CrossFit Games championship.
And the
burpees. 10 more burpees remain for Scott Panchik.
2. And the countdown begins. Wow, okay. This is one heck of a thing. All right, so as we get closer to the end of this, people post your questions to chat. If you have any questions, I will take them after this live stream.
Sean, I am sweating profusely out of the nervousness that I now feel after watching this event.
Do you think they're both driving home together?
It's either that or, I tell you what, if the guys had to do it, guess what the girls are going to be doing on Friday?
Yeah, exactly. Rich Froning looking to close things out as he's trying to get inside of 10 minutes. Again, it was a 15-minute time cap, 10 rounds, 8 ground to overhead at 95 pounds for the men, 65 for the women. and 10 bar facing burpees. You don't see this a lot right here. Someone cheering Rich Froning through a workout. And now Froning is done.
Froning's done, but he doesn't even rest. He just goes straight for that high five. Now that is a strong athlete. All right, Kiki Dinson is going to step in. We'll listen to a little bit of the stuff. Don't forget to ask your questions in the chat, and I will answer them once the athletes are done.
It's 5 minutes slower. That's what I wish.
Less suffering.
While I have you, if you don't do it already, make sure you subscribe to the WODDITY podcast. We do CrossFit news every day in the morning. It takes 5 minutes or less, and I try to make it a little fun. Now we got a little crawling on the floor help with each other. All right, so subscribe to the podcast. Don't forget, I am road tripping across the United States between every North American sanctional, including 2 in Canada. Starting in January, you can watch Road Warrior Fitness by subscribing to this YouTube channel right here.
The Rogue Legends series is a documentary series that celebrates the stories of the men and women who shaped strength history. Chapter 4 is coming out now as soon, and here's a trailer for Chapter 4 of that series, Sandwina. Back with more after the break.
When we talk about people as legends, we have mythic legends from the distant past. Babe Ruth is clearly a legend in baseball. And in our own field, in strength, whether it's weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, as we go forward, we discover that there are people whose stories transcend their time. I think in Sandwina's case, she is clearly the most significant woman figure from the past.
Katie was normally advertised as the strongest and most beautiful woman on earth. When she was young, all accounts are is that she very quickly was stronger than the boys her age and stronger than young men her age. And the more she trained, the stronger she got.
She's not faking it. She is actually lifting 2 guys.
So the story that introduced me to Katie Sandwina was at her size, she would actually, pick her husband up and press him overhead. And besides the fact that that's just cool, trying to maximize overhead press is one of the things that I'm constantly trying to work on and having this conversation of like, what's really possible? Can a woman do a body weight or above dumbbell press? Because of what she did, that kind of set a marker that was possible.
Her son, Teddy, a big man, weighed over 200 pounds. There's a wonderful photograph of her holding him over her head with one hand, no tricks, and it seemed to have been casually done.
At a certain point, she and Max bought a bar and restaurant in Queens. Max did the cooking at the restaurant, and Katie tended the bar. She was also supposedly the bouncer. She would sort of pick up some small guy and throw him outside if there was trouble.
There's a beauty in strength, and there's a beauty in being able to express yourself as who you are. And Sandwina, if she emphasized that part of her character and that part of her appearance, then instead of people turning away in horror, they would actually start to respect her.
And her multiple achievements in the circus, demonstrating her strength over this long, long period of years, makes her, I think, a figure who really does reserve our respect and our admiration. I also think she's kind of a great role model for us.
She was indeed one of life's true wonders.
The Rogue Iron Game from Austin, Texas is brought to you by GoRuck. GoRuck, founded by a Green Beret, is pioneering rucking as a fitness activity. ROMWOD, range of motion, workout of the day. Check out romwod.com for more info. And Rogue, don't weaken.
One would struggle to find a more consistent and steady professional athlete than Scott Panchik. Through 3 eras of CrossFit Games champions, Panchik has always been on the heels of the fittest man on earth. At 5'9", 187 pounds, he fits the mold of the average CrossFit athlete, but Scott is anything but average. Since 2012, Panchik has never finished outside the top 50 at the CrossFit Open. His best Open performances include 2 4th place and 2 5th place finishes in the world. At 31, age is not holding Panchik back. His best Open finish was just this last CrossFit Games season, placing him 11th, right behind longtime friendly rival Rich Froning. Scott Panchik has only once finished outside the top 10 at the CrossFit Games with his 11th fittest man on earth status in 2018. He came back with a vengeance in 2019, taking his 3rd 4th place finish of his career. Panchik has historically had an endurance problem, struggling with longer endurance events like the cyclocross in 2018 and anything thrown at him with a longer run. Much like CrossFit Open opponent Rich Froning, Panchik struggled with the first workout of the 2019 CrossFit Open, placing outside the top 100. Scott's wheelhouse is classic CrossFit, moving large loads over long distances quickly. He passed Rich Froning and won a CrossFit Games Fran event in 2012. He's also dangerous with a heavy load, going toe-to-toe with fittest man on earth Matt Fraser in the 2019 1-rep max clean event. Talking consistency, his Games finishes read off like a Legends rap sheet. 4th, 11th, 6th, 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 5th, 4th, 4th. Every year feels like the year Panchik could break the barrier and take it all.